Hello and welcome to part 158 of the Coding Game Engine live stream, and it's part 1 of precompiled headers. We are not done with GUI, if that's what you remember the last episode being, which it was, I think we was on part 84 of GUI. We would have been starting part 85. When I look into precompiled headers, I know a little bit about it. Helps, compilation time, that's the big one. Doesn't, recompile every single header when, one header includes another header includes another header. If you just change one of the headers, doesn't have like a cascading compilation effect. And I've got like a little video by the channel up here. It's a long video. I'm gonna watch this. He's gonna talk about it. He knows his stuff. So yeah, this video, this stream today is gonna be me researching probably a bit of implementation as well.
To my C++ series. So today we're going to be talking all about precompiled headers in C++. We're going to first of all start off by just talking about them, what they are, and why you should be using them. And after that, we're going to jump into both Visual Studio and GCC and kind of take a look at a real-world example of how to actually set them up and see the actual benefits in a very simple example. Okay, so first of all, what are precompiled headers? I'm sure that if you've been using C++ for any kind of moderate amount of time, you've probably heard of them, but I would place a fair bet that a lot of you probably aren't using them because really they're not really required to be used. They're something that is probably quite vital for larger projects, but for most of you who are kind of still learning, you probably don't have massive projects in which you would really need to use C++. And if you haven't actually worked somewhere or worked on a large project, then you probably would never really set this up by yourself unless someone explicitly kind of told you, hey, you should start using precompiled headers. So there's a good kind of bet that I think a lot of you guys aren't using them, but you need to use them. They will kind of help you out so much. What precompiled headers actually do is they give you an opportunity to grab a bunch of header files and convert them into essentially a kind of compiled format that the compiler can then use instead of having to read those header files over and over again. So here's an example, right? I use the standard template library quite a lot, right? I might be using vector, I might be using string, I might be using other things in the standard library like, stdc out. All of those kind of files, right, especially the standard template library, comes from header files, right? They're made out of header files because they're templates, they have to be defined in header files. Now, every time that I include vector, let's just use that as an example, every time I include vector in one of my C++ files, it needs to read that entire vector header file and compile it. Not only that, the vector includes a bunch of other include files, right? That needs to happen as well. The preprocessor has to go in, copy all of that into that vector file. Essentially, you end up with something that's probably around 100,000 lines of code or so that needs to be parsed, tokenized, and compiled in some form before you actually get it to your main kind of file that you're trying to compile. Because if your main file includes vector, then vector has to be copied and pasted into that main file. And then that whole kind of conglomerate of code, that whole mass of code, has to be parsed and compiled every time. You suddenly decide, I'm going to change my main kind of file that I'm trying to compile a little bit. And my main file is just a C++ file, right? It's just the one that we're kind of working on right now. Because if you have many C++ files in your project, many places that include vector, obviously they're going to be individually included in every single file, right? Because that's how the compiler works. Every translation unit is compiled separately, and then later the link kind of links all of that together. If you're unfamiliar with that, definitely check out the video on how kind of C++ works and how the compiler works and how the link works, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, the point is, every time you make a change in that C++ file, the whole thing has to be recompiled, right? So that vector class, that vector file has to be copied and pasted into your C++ file, parsed all over again from scratch, and compiled again because you've, added a blank line or something like that, right? What that means is that your compile times are going to be a lot longer than they potentially could be. Not only that, but think about the fact of you have multiple C++ files in your project. They all include vector, right? Well, suddenly you have to keep parsing that same code all over again every single time for each translation unit, for each CPP file that you're actually trying to compile. That takes time. So what you can do instead is use something called a precompiled header. What that does is it takes a bunch of header files which you tell it to take in, right? A bunch of code essentially, and it compiles it once, and it stores it in a binary format that is way faster for the compiler to actually deal with than just text, because it's already been parsed kind of state, and it's in binary, not text, right? That's ready to go. And every time you include that precompiled header file, it already has everything you need. That's it, right? So instead of it parsing that entire vector file every single time, it only needs to look at the precompiled header, which is already in a great, fast, easy to use binary format, easy to use to compile that is. Binary format, right, which it just takes every time you need vector because you've included your precompiled header in your source file that you're currently compiling, and all the data's there. And what that means is that it results in way, way, way faster compilation times, okay? Your projects will be compiled like many times faster because of this, especially as your kind of project size, I guess, grows and you end up having more and more C++ files, more and more header files, all of that stuff, and you can keep shoving in more stuff into the precompiled header, and also you have more source files which need compiling that use common headers. It's just going to be so much better. So you need to use precompiled headers if you care about compilation times. If you see that your compilation times are getting out of hand and it's taking like a minute to compile, you can potentially reduce that to like 8 seconds if you just kind of start using precompiled headers. Okay, so I've talked about the greatness of precompiled headers, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at an example in a minute, but I also want to talk about what not to do with precompiled headers. So what I've mentioned so far, kind of, as to what a precompiled header actually is it's essentially a header file which includes a bunch of other header files, right? So because of that, a lot of people might be like, okay, well, I can just put everything in my project into that PCH, into that precompiled header. And if I do that, then, well, I'll get really fast build times, right? Well, yes, but if you put stuff in your precompiled header which changes, so stuff in your actual project that you're likely to change because you're working on your project, and that takes time, right? That could potentially end up slowing down your compilation. So do not put frequently changing files into that precompiled header. Really, what it should be used for, there's nothing wrong with you putting kind of your own project files into there. Like, if I have something like a log.h file, which doesn't really change because how often do I touch my own logging library, right? I've kind of written that once, it's not like I have to keep adding stuff to it. That's fine. You can put that into your precompiled header because that's something that, first of all, is needed a lot, right? Which also makes it convenient to use because since you're including your precompiled header in every single source file now, right? You also have access to those logging functions. So that's really kind of easy to use now. Now it's kind of, it makes it more convenient because you don't need to manually include log in every single Pcb file that you have in your project because you're including the precompiled header, which includes log. That's good because it adds convenience, right? But also, I make sure that I'm not doing it if I'm going to be changing. If I'm currently working on my logging library, probably shouldn't be in the compiled header, in the precompiled header, right? Because every time I change that log.h header file, it needs to get recompiled into the precompiled header, which means the whole precompiled header, I might have said recompiled header, the whole precompiled header has to be rebuilt from scratch every single time. So don't put stuff like that in it. What it's really used for is probably like external dependencies, or there's a bit of an issue with dependencies, which we'll talk about in a minute, but essentially it's used for it's vitally used for code that isn't yours. So for example, the STL, right? Code that is in the standard template library or in the standard kind of C++ library, or like the Windows API, like if you want to include Windows.h, that is a massive header file which includes a billion other header files, right? You're not going to be modifying Windows.h, you're not going to be modifying the standard template library, right? So there is no reason for it to kind of not be in a precompiled header file, right? It should be there because that is a lot of code, probably many times more code than your actual application, right? And when you think about it, what's your application made out of? C++ library, standard template library, Windows API calls, that kind of stuff, right? That's what it's made out of. It uses that stuff all the time, and that's code that you're never going to be touching. So put all of that into your precompiled header, right? That stuff belongs there, because that is a lot of code, probably many times more code than your actual application, than your actual project, right? You're compiling that every single time per Pcb file, that's terrible. Put it into a precompiled header, where it can just be left alone, and you'll get the benefit of, first of all, getting access to everything in every Pcb file, right? You won't need to actually include, like, memory, for example, if you want to use smart pointers, or include vector all the time, because it's going to be in the PCH, which will be included in every single C++ file that you actually write. So you'll have access to that as convenient, and it will speed everything up really quickly. Now, this says something about dependencies. One thing that the PCH can actually do is, because you shove everything into the PCH, it can potentially hide what's actually being used. Now, it's, theoretically speaking, if I write a CPP file that uses, like, I don't know, a window library or something, right? And I put that windowing library into my PCH, it's not really apparently clear. If you read that CPP file, you don't actually know what it needs. It might need GLW, a windowing library. It might need like some other dependencies, but because all of your dependencies are in the PCH, if you just isolate that CPP file and you take it, you don't actually know what it needs. And it can be very difficult in terms of modularity and code reviews for you to actually be like, okay, well now I can take this file, put it into another project. Wait, I know what it needs, right? If you just have include GLW or something in that actual header file, in your actual CPP.
Just watching a video on precompiled headers in C++, thinking about doing it. What do you think?
File that you've taken, it'd be very clear, wouldn't it, that this file needs this file, right? But if you have just include PCH and then a bunch of includes in that PCH, it can kind of make it a little bit harder. So that's what a lot of people kind of mention when they're dealing with precompiled headers, that, you know, be careful, maybe don't include all the dependencies there because it'll make it clearer and easier to read if you actually include your dependencies per kind of file that needs them. And I agree with that to an extent. Depends how kind of specific that
And hello,
is.
it's the Windigo.
Include GLW, you know, in your PCH. I mean, you can, but on the other hand, think about how many actual source files need that. Not that many, right? Probably, like, if you've written a game engine, quote-unquote, properly, probably only one CPP file actually needs to include GLW, right?
Video sound is not working, sound is low. I mean, when I'm talking, it should be alright. It's probably because I'm watching a video as well at the same time. Might be because of that. So just bear that in mind. Just turn the volume up while I'm just doing that part of it. And then when I'm talking like this, it should be okay.
Because everything else is going to be abstracted and in your own API. So in that case, well, you know, why put GLW into your precompiled header? You can. It's not going to make anything worse, right? Probably. However, it does probably hurt readability a bit, and also it'll be extra stuff for your precompiled headers compiled that really only one CPP file needs. Stuff that you should put in there, as I mentioned, is like STL, right? Because strings or vectors or standard cout might be something that you broadly want in a lot of places, right? And stuff that you don't want to keep recompiling from scratch every time. GLW, on the other hand, you know, kind of something you probably compile once and you're done. So that's kind of the idea of precompiled headers. I've talked a lot about this whole thing. Let's jump into it and take a look at a few examples, and we'll also kind of measure how long it takes to build using precompiled headers and not using precompiled headers. So
using a Blue Yeti mic.
Hello World application. It says Hello World, right? However, it includes this file which I've named pch.h. Now, precompiled header, which is kind of what I've called it, can be called absolutely anything. Visual Studio by default makes something called stdafx.h. You kind of use the C++ wizard to actually create a project, or you kind of create a project from a template. I usually create empty projects, which doesn't have any of that. But this file can be called anything you want it to be called. And right now, even though it's called pch.h, don't be fooled, we're not using precompiled headers in this project. What I'm doing is I'm simply including in my pch, I've just got a header file, which includes a bunch of other header files. It includes some basic kind of C++ library stuff, it includes some data structures, as well as the Windows API, so Windows.h, right? This is a lot of code, right? I probably don't need to tell you that it's a lot of code. If I, just for fun, go ahead and say, give me the preprocessor output. So if I go to preprocessor and then preprocessor build file, if I shut that on, and then I just hit Control F7 to build this file, and I take a look at what is actually in this main.i file, if we scroll down to the very bottom, you can see that, I mean, here's our kind of see out hello world. It's like 370,000 lines of code. That's a lot of stuff, right? That is what will be recompiled every single time you include this in your actual CPP files, right? In every single CPP file individually, it has to go over and process 370,000 lines of source code, and then tokenize them, and then compile them, and then do all of that stuff, right? Every single time. We want to avoid that. So what we can do is actually use precompiled headers. So I can turn this into a precompiled header. This is a pretty good example of what you might have in your PCH, right? I haven't got any kind of, I mean, this is just a hello world program, so of course I don't have my own kind of massive set of code. But really I'm just including stuff that I know I'll never touch, and stuff that is likely going to be needed by this kind of program. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, once you have your header file, make a CPP file which includes your header file. This is Visual Studio's way of doing things. I'm going to take a look at what G++ actually needs, and Clang is very similar to GCC as well. But what we need to do for Visual Studio is actually create a CPP file which includes our header file, right? And then on that CPP file, we need to right-click, hit properties, and then go under C++, we need to go to precompiled headers, and then select our precompiled header.
I'll slow down the speed a bit, it's a bit more important.
To be create, right? So for this specific PCH.cpp file, I'm going to create a precompiled header, and then hit OK. Then I'm going to go to the entire properties for the entire project, right? The properties for the entire project, and I'm going to under CSC++ precompiled headers, select this to be used. So our entire project now uses precompiled headers, and then the precompiled header file that we will use will be, of course, pch.h. Okay. Hit OK. Now this, of course, will apply to everything. So if I now look at the properties for main.cpp as an example, you can see it's set to use our precompiled headers, and then it includes, and then it specifies which one is used, and then this is what it will actually compile to, right? So this is the output file. This is the compiled binary format of our actual precompiled header. And then because we've set that for the project, it applies to everything. So in summary, set the project to use your precompiled headers and specify which one is used. And then for your CPP file, which includes pch.h, set it to create precompiled header. And that's all you need to do. Okay? So now if I just right-click build, you can see we should build successfully, and everything should be fine. That's how we create PCHs. Now let's take a look at how much that actually sped up our compile time. Now keep in mind this is a very basic project, which should be even more kind of impactful, because you can see that we really don't have anything here. We've only got one CPP file even. But if we right click, go to properties, and then just disable this for now, so not using precompiled headers, we'll kind of get an easy kind of comparison to the before state. So what I'll do is under tools options, under projects and solutions, VC++ project settings, I'm going to set build timing to yes, just so that it times how long our build takes. And then I'm just going to clean this and then build it. And we'll take a look at how long that takes. Okay, so that actually failed because we can't open main.obj for some reason. I'm just going to go to properties and make sure, because I did the preprocess to a file, I'll just make sure that's set to no. And then I'm going to clean this project, and then I'm going to build the project. Okay, so you can see building the project, a clean build, took 3.3 seconds, right? And then if I edit the source file, for example, let's just print hello world twice, and I build that again, you can see that a subsequent build takes about 1.5 seconds, right? Let's just do that again just for fun, to make sure that we get a more reliable timing. There we go, 1.5 seconds, right? Okay, cool. So now let's just switch this precompiled headers thing to use. And then I'm going to again clean it. We're going to see how long a clean build takes. Okay, about 2 seconds. So that's, I mean, it was 3.3 seconds before, so that's considerably faster. And now let's edit this source file and just duplicate that line. Look at that, half a second. Okay, so down from 1.5 seconds to half a second, that's 3 times faster. And we're going to remove this and try it again just to make sure. And there you go. You can see just how much faster using precompiled headers actually made this compilation, and this project is absolutely tiny. Cool, so let's take a look at how we might do this in G++, and we'll precompile again. Or kind of actually be 1.5 seconds to 0.3 seconds. So much faster, that's like 5 times faster. Okay, so hopefully all these examples have kind of shed some light onto why you should be using precompiled headers. They speed up your build times a lot, and they also make it more convenient to actually write code, since you don't have to keep including commonly used header files over and over again. I hope that made sense. Let me know in the comments below if you've been using precompiled headers, if this is the first time you've heard of it, if you think that this is something that you should use, or kind of your experience with them. In general, every software project should be using precompiled headers. There's no real kind of, should I use them, should I not? Every project should be using them. What to put into your precompiled header is a different story, and we've covered a few of the kind of good examples of what you should put in there, but whether or not you should be using them, yes, absolutely. Unless you're making a little sandbox project and you don't want to go through the hassle of setting it up, not that it's particularly hard, then yeah, I probably would avoid that, but otherwise, you should be using precompiled headers. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, you can hit the like button. You can help support this series and everything that I do here on this channel by going to patreon.com/thechurner.
Okay, so what does, I know Visual Studio uses stdafx. Does that be standard? What does it stand for? Is there any benefit of naming it that way? PCA. Okay, so I mean, I've really already kind of got a file that we can use for that here. If we go to Sonar H, we've already got it. And it'd be great for this because obviously we can include these back in there because they take that pace to compile. And yeah, most of this obviously is not changing, and like he says, when we are working on a particular file, we'll just uncomment it, for example. But like everything should be in this. Did I put window in there? I must have forgot to put window in there. I forgot to put window in there. So hash should include core/window. There we go. So, and then we got this. So I think everything else should realistically be in there. Let me just make sure. So, yeah, this is the one the game will include. You don't think so? Because they're really just all sonar files with a few extra external ones, you know, the ones that are marked external. Just create a pch.h, you think? Okay, I'll create a pch.h. And let me... documents. Wasn't in the... was in this folder, and I can delete that old one. Okay, so I'm just gonna no, that's not what I'm gonna do. I want to copy that. I've got a bunch of backups over here. 10 before pre-compiled headers. Okay, so I'm gonna let that do its thing, copy over. I'm going to 20 minutes? No. Let me pause this a second, see if that speeds things up. It should do. Okay, so I'll just let this do its thing. I'm just gonna go and get a snack, and I will be back momentarily. Yeah, I'll be back, and then we'll, you know, work on this, and we'll get it done. Okay, back soon. few things as well. Okay, is that copied over? It does. Okay, so we're gonna create the PCH file now. Oh, it's created here. Okay. So is the idea here that a PCH file shouldn't really be included in the game end? Yeah, 'cause you don't see PCH. Yeah, I guess so. We need a CPP file as well. Let's duplicate this one. Where is it? PCH. So first of all, let's modify this. So nothing but the hash include PCH. Yep, there we go. And we shouldn't need this again. Then in PCH, No, but the PCHO may contain files the game doesn't really need. Okay, precompiled. Include file. Okay, so this PCH. And what we're gonna do now? What was it? You was meant to go to. I think you go to the CPP first. Right click, properties, and go to C++, precompiled header, and this was meant to be called create. Let me just confirm.
I go to, and then the I file, that's our groups right in dots. What you just hello. I'm just going to click file, it's our hit properties, right? And go under C++, under C++, we need to go to precompiled headers, and then select our precompiled header to be create, right? So for this specific,
and I'm going to do that for all configurator and all platforms. I want to get rid of this, to this to create, apply, and then he did it for the project itself. C++, precompiled headers, and that was pch.hpp. And we do use, apply. Before we change anything else, I want to make sure this actually, still works. Before I do any includes anywhere.
and I'm going to as an example, the 23 project view. If I click this file time, click file headers.
You mean this? Because that's in there. Is that what you mean? Was it meant to do that or not? I thought I did. Okay, so you're saying just delete all this then? Okay. Honestly, I'll find it easy if I just do this in. Including the game stuff as well, so not just the engine stuff. Just confirm that here. Put it in Sublime. Be a lot easier. Ah, I see what you mean then. I might just do it in the other file then. In Visual Studio. Got a few left. Let me finish this off, wash my hands, and then we'll do it. How you doing anyway, her? You good? How's everyone doing? How's the weekend? Got any more Second Life sets coming up? All fine. A little hungover. I was spinning yesterday, but didn't record it this time. Fair enough. Okay, so what we'll do is I'm gonna close down all of these files for now. Pin that one. Just manually open each one. Okay. Hash include. Okay. I mean, did it moan about this one? I guess it did as well. Because, I mean, I added that file myself. I mean, it's not my own file per se, but I guess I've got to do it with this one as well. Just let me know, her, because at the end of the day, it's not my file, but it's still a file I, you know, added. This is where I wish I had a streaming deck with macros. What I do is just not connected to this, connected to my Mac. The button. Button group. But it did moan about it, her. That's the reason I'm saying, should we do it? Because it's actually moaned about it. So I don't see how leaving it, how we could leave it out. Let me know that. Yeah, because it's moaning about, you know, every single one of them. As you can see. Obviously, because it's moaning about every single one of the files that are there. That's the reason. I was just confirming. Okay, that's fine. I'll get on with this. Hopefully we'll get this done today. Probably have a bunch of errors. That's calm. Okay, so just done checkbox circle now. So I'm guessing obviously with any duplicates I'll just get rid of her. That's what I'm going to do, because at the end of the day we don't need it. Should only need be one instance of them in there. So like that one map we have not done yet. Bear with me. Give them to list the sort out right away. So just keep it in some sort of predetermined order. Don't do you think that? Yeah, probably not a bad idea to be fair. Okay, 1 second. some order. So obviously I'll do a thingy order first, and then graphics and color. Debug, core and debug. Don't want this auto correction when I click tab without having typed anything after the quotation marks and hash include. I feel like it's a part of a new update for Visual Studio. I don't remember it doing it a little while ago. Do not like it. Anyone know that to disable it, let me know. Graphics, drawables. Nah, you wouldn't put splash state in there. You put core game, but not splash state, because that can change. And nah, I don't. Nah, I'm pretty certain we would leave that one in there as is. External gamepad. You don't put those in there that change frequently, yeah. Obviously some of these may change frequently during the course of this series, because obviously we're making the engine. Those stuff I'll probably just comment out as I'm working on something. Like if I decide I want to do a big change in, I know asset manager is going to be changing, but again, that's still part of the engine's core stuff that won't be changing afterwards, but I'll just comment it out when I do, because that would trigger. Yeah, that's fine. Obviously any of these that I'll go back and rework or do some major changes, I'll comment out at that particular moment in time until I'm actually finished with it. PCH.HPP, well, we're good to move on to the next one. So gesture. A whole heap of comments. Oh, see, something like this What do you recommend with this here? Because this has includes, but they're based on hash if not defined. I feel like you wouldn't be copying this over. What do you think here? Should I leave this as it is then? The imgui stuff? Plus I need to do high score manager. I forgot to do that. Will you give me an answer to that? I'll sort this out. Okay, so you said just put the PCH include at the top, so just here. But then do I take these out then? Or not? Actually, just the imgui one, I guess, because all the other ones, they're not in the project anyway. I'll probably just replace it with that one. Do you want me to take this out? This hash include imgui.h or leave it? I don't get what you're saying. Should I put the PCH in here or should I put this in the PCH? I'm not quite seeing what you're saying. Do you want me to take this out? Put it into the PCH? I'll wait for so you want to say you're saying leave this, just put the PCH here? Are you saying do this? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Should I, even if I don't remove it, should I put this in the PCH so that gets included everywhere else? Or should I not? Let me know. Should I leave this in here and should I also put in PCH regardless of what I do? Or should I just leave it in there and not put it anywhere else? While you respond, I'll work on the next one, input. Now include the imgui in the files where you need it. You don't need to print. Okay, coolio. I will get rid. Not get rid. You know, I'll put it in here as well. Then I'm guessing it's the same principle with this. Hash include PCH. Copy that. That's something probably look at later on. I feel it's probably more work later on long term, but it is what it is. Woohoo! Look at all of them. I'm going to put it above all the comments as well. And I want to change it slightly in imgui. So I did input. I'm just gonna do still a fair bit to be fair. We'll get in there though. It'll be done in no time. Don't know what I put it down there for. Label CPP. That was me fault. Probably be a very eggy one. Okay, so I've already got game. I just need. So let me open up main again. I just need engine definitions. The other one I've already got. Map manager. Okay, I have neither of these in there. Okay, so parallel, CPP, parallel, parallax. Physics world. Nope, I don't need to, so that's not going to go put in there. But we'll put it on top of here though. It's you're moaning about it otherwise. Pcb XML. Not gonna mess around with this. I won't remove any of this stuff. Won't mess around with this stuff here. What I want to do is go back to box 2D. I mean the B2 GeoDraw. I remember I removed a bunch of stuff from here. I want to put it back in here. Get Project XYZ. You might have to change it soon to Saucy Game Engine her. Maybe Project Saucy. Saucy. external B2G error. Okay. Same with external, the other external stuff. Don't want to libraries that don't really want to be messing with. I would say so collision and gamepad. So that sort of stuff is gonna get used. I guess I'll leave it there for now and I can decide after. If you have a suggestion here, let me know. Oh, my bum is killing me. It's getting a bit sore now, just sitting here like this. Scrolling background. You're getting close. Sequence now. Slider. So close, yet so far. Nope, not messing around with anything. Splash state. Sprite. Yes. IO stream. Oh hell yeah, that needs to go in there. Core state machine. Hash include IO stream. People are watching very patient. There's only 1 or 2 views anyway at the moment. Probably thinking this is so boring now. Graphics, texture. Yo, how we are almost done. 4 more files left. Feel like I may have messed something up. I feel like there might be 1 or 2 files that I missed, like this plastic, but at the end of it, I'll just do a compilation. If there's anything that I missed, it'll pop up. Triangle. We're far from being done. Next you have to clean up your HPP files. For pre-compiled header stuff, or just in general they need cleaning up? Hash include graphics view.hpp. Let me just and the final bad boy, I've already done graphics view, so I can grab that. I can delete that. Hash include PCH, and I want to say I've even whacked in window anyway, so I don't need to. For the PCH stuff, in some of them you're including other HPP files. You can remove that and move the file to include before the you can remove that and move the file to include before the file in PCHCPP. You mean move stuff around? Okay. So let me just actually give this a whirl. It's gonna be an interesting one. I mean, I think they're just warning so far. No, we're getting some errors. Failed to create virtual memory for PCH. And I remember saying yes, I forgot to add it here. Let me try to run it again, see if that was the reason why we was getting those errors. Nope, it is not. So we're getting these errors for some reason. Any suggestion here? Let's have a look. Is it because of the header files? I'll be wrapping up soon anyway. Virtual memory range for PCH exceeded. Please recompile with a command line option of dad dash zm value or greater. Virtual memory allocated for your precompiled header is too small for the amount of data the compiler is trying to put in it. Starting in Visual Studio 2015, the ZM recommendation is only significant when using hash pragma HDR stop directive. In other cases, it's a spurious error that indicates Windows virtual memory pressure issues. If your precompiled header uses a hash pragma directive, use the /ZM compiler flag to specify a larger value for the precompiled header file. Otherwise, consider reducing the number of parallel compilation processes in your build. For more information, in some of them, you're including other HPP files. You can remove them. Oh, that's all. Any suggestion here about this? I'm still reading. The ZM factor. So this is C++. Command line property. So command line. Select enter /ZM compile option in the additional options box. Additional options box. And that it? Or do I need to specify something as well? We'll try this. Do I need to put like a number after it? Yeah, I need to put a number after it. Let's try 10. So 1 is... Try 100 first. How was you meant to do the argument? Oh, you just literally put the number there? No, with no space. So 100 would have been 75 meg. Let's have a look. When they say memory allocation, I'm guessing they mean storage application, not RAM. Maybe not. Still same thing. Let me do a much larger one. Let me put 1,000 there, and then I'll just work. If that works, I'll just work my way down. Make sure there's no errors. Make sure it works without errors, blah blah blah. Nothing pretty. Okay, okay, so this is the project XYZ. It's not using a crazy amount of memory either. So that must just be a storage thing. I think there'll be a file here, won't there? Don't know where it would be. I'm gonna assume where Visual Studio is. This PCH file. I think that's it. Precompiled header. Okay. Okay, so let me give this another run. Okay, so that was quick. Let me see what happened, because I'm hoping maybe you're starting to do what her was saying. I went to like game.hpp and I made some modification, and I said, I don't know. So if the modification was like that, for example, I'll save it, run it. So yeah, still having to recompile everything, but again, I think that might be because of that. Plus I'm working on it as well. There's that. Still feels faster though. Okay, so I'm done for today. I'm gonna wrap up. What I'm gonna say is start of pre-compiled headers done, removing hash include in .cpp file and replaced with pch.php. To do refactor header files. You can move memory and string to the PCH. It's just BS again, isn't it? What were the files I can delete in here? Platform, Windows. I think it's this. The IPCH folder that I could just remove. I think it was one of these that I could remove, wasn't it? I'll delete the contents of it. So what was he saying? You can move memory and string to the PCH. Okay. I'll whack that in there as well. Just give me a second. then we'll be done for today. A nice stream with some nice progress. Okay, so you're saying PCH. So do. There we go. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to commit this bad boy. Oh, I know what's going to be bigger. It's going to be the precompiled header. That's what's bigger, isn't it? Movie from game CPP, okay. It's not in game CPP. Okay, so I'll just have to get rid of this then. Was it thingy by any chance? What's it called? B2GL draw? No, it wasn't B2GL draw. ImGUI? No, it was definitely any of our stuff, so I'll just leave it, I guess. Just commit this bad boy and push that bad boy. Let's update this at 159. Still doing pre-compiled headers. And here we go. Okay, so if I refresh that, 44, so I just want to make sure things were updated. So if we go to source, games, player, should be a PCH there. We go to engine, PCH, main. Okay, so we're all good to go. So that's it. So we're all good. I'll message you her in a second. We'll talk about the header stuff. And yeah, we'll be continuing with that tomorrow. So thanks for watching. I'll see you all tomorrow. Hopefully you have a good day. Bye bye.